So good evening, everyone. Just to see a show of hands again, how many of you first time joining in? You missed the past one or two lessons. Okay, so Marcel missed. Okay, so no worries. A brief recap. So we started off with aligning ourselves. The whole idea of meditation is not just sitting here. I hope the rest have attended will do your homework now. That means every moment we can produce, we call right thought. Right thought is the execution. Right understanding is the overall strategy. The strategy or objective is to overcome craving. If your objective is to crave, you want something, even to achieve something, then it will hinder your meditation. Even wanting peace also it can give you problem. You want peace, you see that one peace, then you struggle. And so you need to have the understanding is to reduce craving, and there are appropriate steps, which is this right action. Right thought. So right thoughts, non-greed, non-hatred, mainly these two. Right. So non-hatred, we start off with non-hatred first in our routine, which is loving kindness. You need to soften up the mind. You straight away think of impermanence, then that's it. Your mind sometimes cannot accept. If the mind is not ready, not embracing, you think of, oh, my hair turning white. Instead of letting go, you see, I want to go see hair specialist. I want to buy this hair conditioner. Nothing wrong, but you end up worrying more instead of letting go. So start with loving kindness first, followed by contemplation of impermanence, which is thoughts of non-greed, which is detachment. So once we have this in mind, then the rest of the chart, right? The rest of the chart is all on maintaining this right thought. So again, another thing to emphasize, the mantra, right effort. Always keep repeating the right thought, no matter what. Okay, so this is the main thing. So last week we talked about concentration, different kinds of concentration. So we talked about this basic overview, the things we are going through, loving kindness, impurities of the body, and breath meditation. Mainly these three things. So last week we teach you how to drive a car. If for those who remember how to drive, how to change gear and so on. So we are using the entire breath body. That means feeling the entire body as the breath. So there are various variations. Some people feel the breath one point. Some people feel the abdomen, another point. Some feel the whole body, another kind of breath. So doesn't matter. We are not training the breath. We are training how to let go of the 5 aggregates. So same thing, impurities of the body. We are not training the hair. We are not training the teeth. We are not training other stuff. Okay, so same thing. These are the things we are not doing. So don't expect any supernatural abilities after the lesson. So we talk about samatha, vipassana, various combinations. You can do samatha first and followed by vipassana. Sometimes you can do vipassana first, followed by samatha, or sometimes you can combine both. And we also have this Q&A kind of style. You can question yourself, investigate the Dhamma, different meditation objects, different schools of Buddhism. Okay, so last week we talked about these 4 kinds of samadhi. Eventual goal in Buddhism is to reach peace of mind. So one thing to have peace, that's the initial goal, that's the initial strategy. But don't keep worrying, I want peace, I want peace, I want peace. Then you have problem, you have craving. Right? So you need to carry out the right action. So we talk about the first kind of samadhi, which are the jhanas. Will keep you pleasant, abiding. So that's the function of the first kind of samadhi. The second kind of samadhi is this knowledge and vision to develop this divine eye, or some people call it a third eye. Third kind of samadhi, which is this vipassana, observe mindfulness, impermanence all the time. And the fourth kind of samadhi, it's the continuation of number 3, where you eventually detach and remove this effluence or this defilements of the mind and reach enlightenment. Okay, so the Buddha taught 84,000 Dhamma doors. So in my routine, we don't really emphasize on number 2. Some, again, we mentioned some schools, they need to visualize the light or some image for a long time. So we don't really do that in case some people end up in trouble. So the things we're doing is 1, 3, and 4. All Buddhist schools, we have to do number 4. Number 3 and number 4, eventually have to reach this Nibbana. So some schools can combine 1 and 3, some 2 and 3, some 1, 2, and 3. So there are various combinations. Some just do 3 alone and just do purely vipassana. So again, you can mix and match. We covered jhanas, the various jhanas. You can watch the YouTube if you missed the last week's lesson and the different, they call this psychic power. Again, we don't emphasize here. So the main thing is this vipassana, which we talked about. And eventually this last one, you can actually reference with this Maha Shunyata Sutta. The discourse, the greater discourse on emptiness. So the Buddha described what is this objectless samadhi. Eventually, when a person's mind is pure enough, they don't need an object of meditation. They don't need to chant anything. They don't need to watch the breath. They don't need any meditation object. The mind will naturally reach this stillness. They just need to observe this stillness. So that is the eventual phase. So some people, early on in the meditation, they will tell you, do nothing. Meditation, just do nothing, or just stay in the awareness. Not advisable. This is more like the final stages. So if for beginner, you try to do nothing and just watch your awareness, high chances you will not succeed or you will not go very far. So this is like the final product is like maybe, for example, design and technology, where we need to smoothen a piece of wood or any kind of material. You start off with rough file, then you move on with the finer kind of filing, then followed by all kind of sandpaper, and the final part then is the lacquering, painting and lacquering. You don't start off initially the rough product and you start to lacquer and paint. So you end up with a very weird product. So there is a sequence. So we talk about this objectless samadhi as the final product. It should come naturally. So if a person's mind already reached certain purity, the mind will be inclined to just observing this so-called emptiness. Okay, so today, this is in relation. You can find these 7 factors of enlightenment. So these are like the symptoms if a person does this vipassana correctly. So when there is detachment, these 7 symptoms will appear. So it's not COVID symptoms, it's factors of enlightenment symptoms. So there are 7 things. So you can find this in the right mindfulness, mindfulness of the Dhamma, mindfulness of phenomenon. So if a person starts off with this right mindfulness, always mindful of impermanence. Mindful of impermanence. This is what a person first you need to do, regardless of any meditation object. Even for the breath meditation, Anapanasati Sutta also will mention these 7 factors of enlightenment. If a person always be mindful of this impermanence of the breath, then second step, they need to investigate the Dhamma, investigate impermanence, or whatever you want to investigate, suffering, non-self. Don't ponder too far, don't be too theoretical, don't over-intellectualize. So in the meditation, we always talk about using your solid evidence, whatever observable sensations as the anchor point for investigation. Anything else is speculation. So investigation has to be sort of observable. It's not speculation. Okay, so the third one is energy or effort. So once you have these three things, earlier on we talked about right effort. That means continuation. It's not about just thinking 1 second. Oh, you're okay. Everything is impermanent now. Everything is empty now. So you just think for 1 second, then you think that's it. Then the mind go back to square one. Now start to daydream, start to worry, start to fantasize, whatever. So no, not like that. So you need this effort, consistency, continuation. We call repetition. So later on in the meditation routine, we'll also have a lot of this repetition. I will keep reminding, keep thinking of the right thought, either loving kindness or impermanence, repeat and repeat and repeat. So the mind needs to fulfill these first three criteria. Then something will happen. So once you do these three, then the next thing will happen by itself. So rapture is, some people translate as joy. So this joy you cannot fake on, you cannot force it out. It's a byproduct. So you do the first three correctly, this will appear as one of the signs. You feel naturally, feel this joy. So I'm not sure about those who attended the past 1 or 2 sessions, even the beginning stage, when you think of the impermanence of the hair, the teeth, the skin, you think of impermanence all the time, the birth and death of the hairs. If there is enough detachment, you feel this certain joy will appear. Certain inner joy will appear. Yeah, it's not like I ask you to think of the hair and ask you to feel happy for the hair. No, yeah. So that is the loving kindness part, but the detachment part will sort of arouse this rapture to occur naturally by itself. So this is the symptom, rapture. And of course, these emotions or these hormones won't last long. It will calm down and have this tranquility. So in order to progress these next 4 steps, you still need to be mindful of these first 3 steps. It's not that, oh, I got joy already, then just steal the joy. Enjoy the joy, enjoy the rapture. No, once you do that, you have clinging and all gone, all back to square one, back to zero. So in my advice, I always mention, treat everything as passerby. Treat everything as passing scenery. Like when you, let's say you drive a car, lots of scenery pass by, can be trees, can be buildings, can be whatever. You don't have to stop at every object and look at the lamppost, stop and look at the tree. No, you carry on your journey so you can reach your goal. So, and also not to reject these sceneries. It's not to, don't look at your surroundings. No, you need to be aware these things do happen, but do not cling to them. So no clinging, no pushing. So always mindful of impermanence. So these things arise and followed by this tranquility. And after the mind tranquil for some time, it will enter this concentration. So this concentration is equals to this one. Either this or this. So we are talking about this concentration. So this is not the same as jhanas. So jhanas, you need to enter first jhana first in order to have this rapture, joy or happiness. So if you look at the jhana table, you need to enter this concentration first to have this piti and sukha, joy and pleasure, or some people translate as rapture. But for this process, vipassana process, you need to investigate impermanence first, and rapture will arise before having concentration. So it's a totally different process. So a person can achieve or experience these symptoms, these 7 factors of enlightenment, with or without jhanas. So for example, if let's say a person enter the 4th jhana, so the mind is supposed to have equanimity, no joy, no happiness. Then inside the jhanas, then they investigate this one, investigate impermanence. Then joy and rapture will also arise inside the jhanas. So it can happen both ways. Yeah? So, so once they have concentration, then eventually have this equanimity. The mind will achieve this equanimity, means the definition, not shaken by the vicissitudes of life. So you have things disturbing you, the mind won't be so easily shaken. So that's the definition. So we are not training you to be robots. Yeah? We are not training you to be, some people treat equanimity, that means everything don't care. Right? Some people even talk about stopping your heartbeat and stuff like that. So I would, my opinion, those stopping of heartbeat would be this kind of samadhi. If a person is very engrossed in this perception, they can enter this hibernation or suspended animation kind of stage, right? So that is another kind of concentration. But for, let's say, jhanas or vipassana, right? This one requires lots of bodily activity, even thinking. So you can cross-reference with Dipa Sutta, D-I-P-A. You can search on D-I-P-A. So this Dipa Sutta is the extension of this Anapanasati Sutta, the mindfulness of breathing. So they mention the same 16 steps of the breath meditation, and the Buddha mentioned this breath meditation can lead a person from the first level of concentration all the way to the 8th level of concentration until even cessation, this clearing of the defilements, yeah, which is this samadhi. So at every level of concentration, you will end with this statement, by mindfully observing the in and out breath concentration. So even, right, very high levels of concentration also have to watch the breathing. Right? So this is for people who want to refer to the suttas. So there's a lot of misconception based on post-canonical understanding. They think, okay, jhana means no thinking. They might be combining with this visualizing kind of samadhi. Eh? Okay, so again, some case study. So jhanas does not mean no thinking, right? So the Buddhist kind of jhanas require vipassana. So you can refer these two suttas, Panya Vibhuti Sutta, released through wisdom. Yeah? So Panya means wisdom, Vibhuti means liberation. And this Jhana Sutta, yeah, so Anguttara Nikaya. So both scriptures mention that entering all levels of concentration have to think. You need to observe impermanence. You need to do some kind of vipassana. You need to reflect on arising, passing, and whole list of reflections, impermanent suffering, non-self, emptiness, illusion, whatever it is. So there's a whole list of things. You can pick one and choose one to reflect. So there is lots of thinking, and again, there is a misconception that, let's say, doing jhanas will develop these psychic abilities, which is not true. So we have this Venerable Sariputta as an example, a case study. So the Buddha praised Venerable Sariputta. Venerable Sariputta happened to be the Buddha's right-hand man, the wisest amongst all the Buddha's disciples. Yeah? So the Buddha praised Venerable Sariputta to be able to enter all the jhanas from number 1 to number 8. And you can find this in this Anupada Sutta, one after the other. So it talks about how Venerable Sariputta entered from 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and cessation. And even after cessation, that means the 9th jhana, 9th level of concentration, still not yet enlightenment. So Venerable Sariputta entering all these levels of concentration, not yet enlightened. So Venerable Sariputta got enlightened while listening to the Buddha giving scripture, while fanning the Buddha. So there is in another sutta where the Venerable Sariputta is attending to the Buddha last time. There's no aircon, no automated fan. So the Venerable Sariputta has to hold a palm leaf. And he has to stand beside the Buddha and fan the Buddha. So while listening to the Buddha, he was contemplating on the teachings, then he got enlightened. So some people think, oh yeah, enlightenment so easy. I just listen to scripture, can get enlightened. No, you need this state of mind. This level of stillness, level of calmness, level of experiencing the different states of mind that sort of question or crush the ego to a certain level first. Then you can intellectualize a bit, and then you can reach enlightenment. So if the mind is all scattered, never experienced any form of concentration before, you intellectualize the whole day, still intellectualizing. There's no depth. Yeah, no depth. So this is one after the other. And the second case study would define Venerable Sariputta. This Junha Sutta is a story where he's with Venerable Moggallana, Venerable Maha Moggallana, which is the left-hand disciple of the Buddha. So both left and right-hand disciple of the Buddha happen to be together meditating in a cave. So Venerable Moggallana happened to be foremost in psychic power. Yeah, so because he developed, he meditated this, visualizing this white light. So you can find this in this Chapala Sutta, C-A-P-A-L-A. It's not Chapalang, it's not anyhow. So Chapala Sutta is a scripture where it mentions Venerable Moggallana, before he got enlightened, he was falling asleep in his meditation. So the Buddha found him nodding off. So meditation, at the time he's nodding, sleeping, nodding off. So the Buddha gave a whole range of advice. So you might apply also. The first thing to do is to increase the rate of observing impermanence. Keep investigating the Dhamma. So this is the first one. If it still doesn't work, you still feel sleepy or cannot observe anything, too stale, and you fall asleep, then you can start recollect the teachings. That means like have Dhamma talk in your mind. If that still doesn't work, still very drowsy, then you can do some mental debate, have a discussion. If that still doesn't work, then you can do your chanting. If you're doing a group setting, then please don't chant aloud. You scare the others. People think you're crazy. Then you can chant mentally. Then if that still doesn't work, then the Buddha advised this Venerable Moggallana to visualize a white light. So this will brighten up the mind. So this is for him, for this Venerable Moggallana. So if that still doesn't work, then many other strategies. You can wash your face, stand up, pull your ears, look at the stars. And last resort, walking meditation. If by walking you still can't fall asleep, you can fall off. That means you are really, really exhausted. Then you should mindfully lie down. Do your lying down meditation. Right? So that is the last resort. So, so that's why we don't teach lying down meditation here. Right? The first thing you do is fall asleep. So first thing always to do, mindful of impermanence. This is the best way. Okay, so according to this story, this Junha Sutta, both Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Moggallana, that is after they got enlightened. So they were meditating in a cave. Venerable Moggallana is meditating deep inside the cave. Venerable Sariputta meditating at the mouth of the cave, at the opening, at the entrance of the cave. So somehow, according to the story, two heavenly beings flew past, two yakas. they are actually one realm above the human realm. So these are the Yaka realm of the 4 heavenly kings. Not the Mendo 4 heavenly kings are not the Andy Lau and the Aaron Kwok. So these are the 2 yakas. So yakas, according to Buddhist cosmology, a lot of them are not friendly, and a lot of them can be quite nasty. Yeah, we think the heavenly beings are all nice people. No, some of them are demonic-like. Yeah, so we classify demons as heavenly beings as well. So these yakas flew past Venerable Sariputta, and they looked down and they saw, hey, this monk, the head so shiny, I feel like bashing the head. So he took his weapon, took the club, and hit Venerable Sariputta and head, and they flew off. And what happened was, Venerable Moggallana saw what happened. So he quickly rushed out and asked, hey, Venerable Sariputta, are you okay? Are you all right? And Venerable Sariputta got up and said, I got this slight headache. I don't know why. Slight headache. And Venerable Moggallana asked Venerable Sariputta, did you see what happened earlier? Do you know what happened? Then Venerable Sariputta said, no, I don't know what happened. I just got headache. Then, yeah, so Venerable Sariputta doesn't have this divine eye. And so Venerable Moggallana has to tell him what happened. Okay, these 2 yakas came and they hit your head and they flew off. So he said, an ordinary person, if let's say they do not have this wisdom kind of samadhi, either vipassana samadhi or objectless samadhi, this actually acts as a kind of force field. So an ordinary person who is not trained, if they are hit by this yaka, the head will split into 7 pieces, become like smashed watermelon. So, but because your head didn't smash, that means you have entered the samadhi, and to give him some consolation. So this Venerable Moggallana praised Venerable Sariputta for his samadhi. And in turn, Venerable Sariputta also praised Venerable Moggallana for his purified divine eye. Right? So this is one of the case studies. So different disabilities require different conditioning. So again, for this course, or at least my routine, we don't do any of these, can be quite dangerous, especially if a person doesn't have enough good karma. Let's say I mentioned the Tibetan tradition, they do lots of purification practices, lots of confession before visualizing or taking up a certain initiation to visualize a certain deity or a Buddha or Bodhisattva. But in the Theravada case, some places who practices this, they will tell you straight away, okay, observe, meditate the white light, not just observe the white light. So if a person do it long, they may or may not have this ability. But if they do have this ability and they do not have enough good karma, then the things they will see are probably very horrific images. All the demons and all the spirits can be quite traumatic. And if a person doesn't have a right intention, they want to look at past lives, end up they also can be quite traumatic if they do not have this equanimity or enough samadhi or wisdom. So if they cannot even handle the dramas of this lifetime got lots of ups and downs already, you got depression already, then you want to look at past life some more. Unless you go to these past life regression therapies, they lagi better, don't need to meditate on. Just as you go into regression, you can see past life already, right? So they lagi better, right? So don't need to meditate at all. So so these are different skill sets. Okay, so I'm not sure whether we have time. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this next week. Yeah, so I end mainly the process this itself is kind of vipassana, and context of samadhi can be used interchangeably. Can be a kind of vipassana, and can be used as other kinds of contexts as well. Okay, so I end my share screen, open the floor for Q&A.
Anyone have any question?
Yeah.
You can either turn on your mic and speak directly or tap into the chat.
Hello, Bante.
Yes.
So at the beginning of the routine, we are doing contemplation of the different parts of the body.
Yep.
But until now, we have done only 4. Can we do on the other 32, or do you recommend it?
Yes, you can, but to be family friendly, I would advise just the external parts of the body.
Okay.
Yeah, even for the monastics, our ordination ceremony, when we first enter the monkhood, we will go through this ordination ceremony, and even the ritual itself, the preceptor, the monk that gives us the ordination, he will just recite the 5 external parts of the body. Have the head, have the body, nails, teeth, skin. That's all. He won't go deeper into these parts of the body. So unless you want to specialize, and again, you might require a good guide, a good mentor to guide you in case you forget to balance up and might end up in depression. Right. So I mentioned earlier before, any meditation object can practice wrongly, can go into the extremes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Another question related
yes.
is this contemplation is going to help us with the unattractiveness of the body too, or is another practice?
Yeah, okay, yeah, this one is one of the methods to help reduce lust and with proper contemplation. So a person needs to think of impermanence to have the detachment. So one good example, I'm not sure, have you seen this, there's a science exhibition called the Body World, a kind of plastination exhibition. I think there's this scientist called Von Hagen or something, I forgot too much his name. So to him, the body is very beautiful. The body is very amazing, very beautiful. So he can plastinate the nervous system and display on a glass pan. Wow, very beautiful, very nice, amazing, this body. Then he plastinate all the blood vessels and put in another glass container and becomes an exhibit for the audience to walk past and look, amazing, beautiful body. So that can instead of detachment, it becomes wonder and amazement and even attachment. I think nothing wrong with amazement if you want to talk about scientific point of view, but if a person doesn't reflect with impermanence, then it becomes a non-detachment kind of practice. So again, it's another kind of extreme. So greed or hatred. So if a person becomes attached to the parts of the body, then becomes greed. Yeah?
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
Good evening, Bante. I have a question. So it's regarding the slide on the case study. Like jhanas does not mean no thinking.
Yeah.
Just one. I'm not quite sure what it means by the thinking in that slide, because like from what I understand, in jhana the mind is still. So I don't know, I just want to like clarify my understanding of like what kind of thinking is it in the jhana.
Yeah, okay. So if you do happen to read that sutta, every level of jhanas, you need to reflect, you need to think that it's impermanent, suffering, non-self. There's like a whole list of reflections. So there is lots of active thinking involved, but the calming of the mind is not the same as no thinking. So there is thinking with attachment and stress, and there is thinking with detachment and no stress.
Okay.
So again, it's an experiential kind of thing. So if a person just approach it superficially without the depth, then again, it's very open to interpretation. Yeah? So this one requires, we call it experience. That means you need to experience it for yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? So the next best thing to no thinking, if you want to look at it at a two-dimensional point of view, is a comatose or a dead patient, dead person. So no thinking at all, but does that mean the mind enter jhanas? Not necessarily so. So we even talk about the different realms of existence. A person commits lots of bad karma. They may not be born in the higher realms. So that is not the jhana realm. Or even the sensual devas, they are not brahmas, are not the jhana realms also. Okay. Yeah, Onchi.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question. So this is with regards to like the eventual goal or purpose of Buddhism, or in fact the purpose of meditation, vipassana, and all this. Because one question that I sort of always have is always when we are doing this practice, are we doing so for the sake of liberation, the elevation of the freedom, cessation of suffering, and all of this? Because I feel like, in a sense, if one is seeking liberation, I would suppose that the main goal would then be to see things as it really is. And when one is able to see things with clarity, then one becomes liberated from a sense of self that arises from a wrong view and whatever. But yet, and maybe the cessation of suffering is a byproduct of that process. But yet, when we look at the Four Noble Truths and all of this, it seems to point directly towards the liberation, cessation of suffering as the eventual goal. So I would like to ask what exactly is the goal that we should be working towards, and also whether I would also like to correct if there's any wrong view in this process as well.
Yeah, so if a person has right view or right understanding, like in the Eightfold Path, that is to cultivate in accordance with the Four Noble Truths, which is to understand, there is suffering, you want to overcome this suffering first, so you must acknowledge there is a cause to the suffering, which is our craving, and the Third Noble Truth, which is the solution, which is the end product, which is the cessation of suffering or cessation of craving. So that is like what you mentioned. So a person needs to have this view in mind, and followed by this Eightfold Path and the Fourth Noble Truth, which is to apply or execute the plan, always have this right thought all the time.
Okay.
Okay, hope it answers the question.
Hello, Bhante.
Yeah.
I have a question. I understand that when somebody is in first jhana, right, they will lose sense of their physical senses, meaning that they can't feel their hands, their legs, their eyes, and something like that. So is it true that this is the byproduct, when you are in first jhana?
Yeah, a lot of people will want to equate it to being the jhanas, which are not necessarily so. I give an example, you can read this Dipa Sutta, DIPA, or all the jhana formulas. They start off with quite withdrawn from the senses. It's not total withdrawn from the senses. So at least that's the criteria. So, but if you want to have extra bonus, you want to totally withdraw, or if a person puts too much effort or too much energy, they might totally withdraw. then I would call that a bonus. But the natural byproduct would be, we say, quite withdrawn, not total withdrawn.
Thank you, Bante.
Yeah. So yeah, so the Dipa Sutta is on the using the breath to enter concentration. So if a person still needs to observe the breath, that means no, they still need to feel the body.
Thank you. So it's DIPA, right?
Yeah,
Dipa
DIPA.
Sutta.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if no
Bante.
question. Yes.
Oh.
Leave it here.
Can I ask, like, Bante, do you enjoy meditation?
Yeah, it's nice and peaceful. Of course, you need to enjoy. If let's say you want to ordain, and makes your sort of livelihood easier. Yeah. So this is like the path, not to do full time. But as a lay person, if you sort of can juggle both, your lay livelihood and meditation, that would be ideal. Yeah. So some people think becoming a monk means no external duty. Is not true. We also have to sometimes maintain the monastery, need to memorize chanting like school, like that. Study scripture and memorize chanting. And it depends on place to place. Some people need to manage all the administration. Can be quite a headache.
Bhante, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You know, some days when you are either where you're very moody or you're very sleepy or you just don't feel like meditating because you're in a bad mood, do you actually have to push ourselves to meditate or just, give ourselves a break and say, okay, today I just excuse myself? Or
Yeah,
I should
okay.
insist that, the more I should go and meditate?
Yeah, so if a person is like in a bad mood or in a negative kind of emotion, so that means the state of mind has it's called clinging and attachment to unwholesome states of mind. So a lot of times we believe that we are very rational beings, very logical beings. Actually not so. Human beings are emotional beings. So we are addicted to any kind of strong emotion. So if it's negative, then some people can get angry the whole day, grumpy the whole day, or depressed the whole day, right? So it's not that we do not know it's a bad emotion. We know it's bad. No, logically we know it's bad, but cannot let go. How to let go, right? So there are techniques that we need to experience a heightened state of mind. That means a more wholesome kind of emotion. So the whole idea is repetition, right thought and right effort. Continuous produce either loving kindness or do whatever chanting you like. Keep repeating. If it's unwholesome emotion, never mind. You just leave it alone. Just come back to your this meditation object. Yeah?
Oh, just continue to meditate.
Yeah. So it's loving kindness first. There are we call it certain meditation objects work better. So we start off with the more emotional kind of meditation, like loving kindness.
Okay.
So that will bring up the
So
positive emotion.
Cannot give ourselves excuse. Okay, today just give ourselves a break. No.
Yeah, you need to experiment around. I would advise you don't have to force or push. It's more repetition.
Okay.
More repetition. You can be a bit laid back. You can even if you're not low on energy, you can lie down. But the whole idea is mentally keep repeating. Don't get sucked into the negative emotion.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, no problem. Okay, any other questions? Anyone else? All okay? All good to go? Okay, then we have this like a 5-minute break. You can do your stretching, relieve yourself, and come back for the guided session. All right. Yes, everyone's back. So while waiting for the rest to turn on their video cam, Does anyone here has any further questions? Maybe one stretching or relieving the self in a study. Some question pop up in your mind.
Bante, I got one last question.
Yeah.
Let's say when we are in first jhana, right? Is it true that we may lose our sense of breath? Meaning that you will lose the sense of your senses, but at the same time, while your breath will become very, very subtle, right? So will it come to a point that you will completely lose it, but you are still aware of what is going on?
Yeah, your attention, you may not be paying attention to the breathing. That is
Okay.
if it's more refined, but that is if you're very skillful in observing the state of mind. But in our routine, to keep the mind more anchored, you need a observable kind of evidence. Then I would always recommend observing the 4 elements.
Okay.
Yeah, if not, the mind will daydream, very easy daydream. You daydream and fall asleep. Then people will think after the sitting, when the daydream finish or sleep finish, then they wake up. Wow, this meditation is so refreshing. I enter these deep states of concentration. All blank actually. Maybe they're sleeping, right? So, so the good, sorry. So a good benchmark is to keep this mindfulness sharp, who is mindful of impermanence, and then you can also, at the meantime, aware of, we call this the jhana factors. So that is like the standard. So like the joy, happiness. So this is the standard benchmark for these different levels of the jhanas.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Anyone else? Yeah, I guess the rest maybe they don't want to turn on the cam because Luis, you got record, right? But sometimes I'm just on the YouTube, and some people meditate, they fall asleep, and it's, I fall asleep appear on public, very spicy, and not so nice. Okay, so never mind. We can start. If you don't want to turn on, it's okay.
Actually, sorry, Bante. I think
Yeah.
I got one more question.
Yeah.
I think just now, Li Hui was talking to me about something. So, Li Hui, do you want to ask a question? Okay.
Thank you, Ajit. But I want to ask, like, how to overcome like putting in too much effort in meditation. Like, if you expect a lot from your sit, so then you put in a lot of effort, but you don't get what you want. Yeah, so like I end up dreading the meditation. Like I end up not liking the breath meditation, and then but I still feel like I should do it because that's what everyone thinks that we should do, and then like it feels I end up being more stressed out because like sometimes the sit causes me more distress than before I sit, and then I just become very conflicted. Like I don't want to do it anymore, but yet like can I really not do it? Yeah. So any advice on how to manage these like expectations or like these challenges in meditation?
Yeah. Okay, so this is same with any skill in life. Learning any skill, if a person has too much expectation, definitely will have this stress. Especially so if, let's say, the more unrealistic the goal or the expectation, and if a person doesn't have the means to do it. So like right now in the routine, I provide you the steps and instructions. So there are means to make the mind have loving kindness first, to calm down the mind before you apply anything else. So it can be anything, like let's say you study for exams, you want to get a certain number of score, yeah. But let's say you do not understand the subject, you feel stressed. Or a person have maybe a wish or a goal. I want to become a trillionaire, for example, or trillionaire or billionaire, whatever it is. So you do not know the means to let's say achieve all this money, so you get upset and give up. Yeah, so again, it's got to do with your the resources you have. What are the conditions? Do you know the technique? So like meditation is all on a practice. So the more you go through a few more routines, the more familiarized you are, then it's supposed to get easier. Okay.
So just keep like, how do you know whether the method we're doing is wrong? Because if it causes you more agitation, does it mean
Yeah. So this is
like
the
wrong?
part you must troubleshoot. No, like if you're a doctor, so you know the symptoms if the person is sick, right? So if let's say you have stress or you feel like want to give up in the meditation, that means this is the symptoms and the sign to tell you that okay, something is wrong. So you need to follow the SOP. There are certain standard operating kind of procedures you need to follow. First, do loving kindness. Always must. People always look down on loving kindness, especially in Theravada school of Buddhism. They always look down on loving kindness. Don't know why. Especially post-canonical ideology. They tell you, oh, loving kindness like cannot reach enlightenment, only can reach the most third jhana only. They'll tell you this. Actually, no. The suttas tell you this loving kindness can reach this liberation. Yeah. So a lot of we said. Post-canonical kind of ideology, which is maybe it's fake news or whatever it is. So we need to apply, these fundamentals, right? Thought, non-greed, non-hatred. So non-hatred, use loving kindness, and non-greed, and you can use your whatever reflection. So you just follow the sequence, then very simple SOP, not too complicated.
Loving kindness. Then
correct.
greed. What do we use? Sorry.
We use impermanence.
Oh, impermanence.
Yeah.
So how should we reflect? Like.
Yeah, like in our routine, first we have loving kindness. If let's say your meditation object is the parts of the body, then let's say we have loving kindness to the hair, wish the hair well and happy, and followed by impermanence. So all these hairs grow and follow. Yeah, so this is just one object. That means one sense door, our mind door. So in our daily life, we have contact, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Whatever you see, also same thing. You can have loving kindness to the object you see, then followed by, once your mind calm down at peace, then you can reflect on all these subject to change.
So it tackles greed because like it will disappear anyway. So like there's nothing to
nothing to hold on to.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's part of the Satipatthana Sutta. In fact, in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, this scripture they mentioned, this is the only way, mindful of impermanence, to purify the mind, to reduce greed and attachment to the world.
Bante, as a follow-up, so what if the object of grasping or clinging is actually some kind of attainment within meditation? Then how should one do the reflection on impermanence in that respect?
Yeah, so like earlier on, we talked about treating all the whatever emotions you feel in your meditation, no matter how pleasant, how peaceful, treat them as passerby. Okay. Keep going back to your theme, either loving kindness or impermanence or whatever. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Any other issues? If not, we start. Battery is running low. Okay. So we can turn off the microphone to prevent this feedback. Find a comfortable seat. Make sure your back is upright. And your body relaxed. Okay, so we are going to start off with some bodily contemplation, wishing the hairs of the body well and happy. So as you visualize, every time you conjure a new image, right, new area of hair, new patch of hair, then you need to apply right thought, wish it well and happy. So this is part of right effort. That means do not let the mind idle or autopilot. Once the mind idle, there's a saying, and the idle mind is the workshop for the devil. The mind will daydream, will wander off. So we call this training, but we make the training a pleasant one. So we make friends with the contact, yeah. The mind or contact, whatever you visualize, wish it well and happy. And once you think your mind is rather calm in this loving kindness and peace, then you can introduce the truth. So you can think all these hairs go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. And the hairs keep growing and falling, growing and falling. Many cycles of birth and death. No need to over dramatize or over imagine how you visit the salon, how you wash your hair, no, yeah? Because hair is growing and falling. And the sign that you're doing on the right track, as long as there's detachment, you will be sort of rewarded with some form of joy, the joy or peace. And all these emotions are just passing sceneries, always mindful of this impermanence. And it's growing, falling, growing, and falling. And as the mind gets calmer or more peaceful, then we can question this self. Are these hairs or any kind of mental factors associated with the hairs? Are they truly you? Are they truly self? If it is truly yours, can you tell it not to go through birth and death? And next we can think on the nails, fingernails and toenails. We wish them well and happy, well and happy. And all these nails go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. Grow and fall off, grow and fall off, many, many cycles. The more the merrier. Then we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? And we tell the nails not to go through birth and death. And next we are going to visualize the teeth. We wish all the teeth inside the mouth, may they be well and happy. All the upper rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all the lower rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all these teeth go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. And these teeth, and the most, they fall off twice. So think of the bone cells instead. And cells of the teeth keep having wear and tear, gets grinded. So they grow and fall off, grow and fall off, many, many cycles. can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? And we tell the teeth not to go through birth and death. In the next part of the body, we are going to visualize the skin. We wish all the skin well and happy from head to toe. And every time you think of a new patch of skin, you wish it well and happy. New patch of skin well and happy. And all the skin are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. And we think of the skin growing and falling, growing and falling, many, many cycles. And we can ask ourselves, are the skin truly self? And we tell the skin not to go through birth and death. Okay, so the next phase of meditation is using sensation, no visualization. So using sensations of the elements, and the hard and soft sensations, warm and cold, fast, slow movement, etc. So it's real-time evidence, so no need to purposely conjure up any image. Okay, so now we are going to wish all beings in front well and happy. Basically all sensations in front, may they be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish me all beings behind well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And now we wish all beings on the left well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings on the right, may they be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And now we wish all beings above, may they be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish me all beings below well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And this time we fill the entire body with loving kindness from head to toe, wishing the entire body well and happy. Whatever sensation that arises within the body, wish it well and happy, and treat all sensations as passerby. And now we are going to isolate this attention to one small area. Below the nostril, above the upper lip, and gentle attention. No need to force or coerce the mind. Gentle attention, very important. So luckily we are not wearing masks. We are at home, so we can feel the breath. Okay, so when the tension is below the nostril, above the upper lip, we are just going to feel again the same, the sensations of the in and out breathing. We can generally classify the sensations as the four elements: earth, fire, wind, water. Nothing magical about them. So earth element represents any hard and soft sensations. Fire, warm and cold. Wind, fast, slow movements and breathe in and out. Yeah, the rate of breathing. And the water element, moisture, moist or dry. When inhale and exhale, we are not controlling the elements. We let it arise naturally by itself. If we have nose blockage, never mind, whatever you can feel at that area, then any of the elements, you just wish it well and happy. So the first step, never fight with the bull, never fight with the breath. Make friends with the breath first. Inhale well, exhale happy. Once you think, oh, I want to control the mind, I want to confine the mind, make it still, then finish, that's it. And the more fighting you have. You don't resist, no fighting, make friends first. Yeah? Inhale well, exhale happy. Or whatever sensation appear during the in and out breath, wish it well and happy. Some people more subtle, more refined. You can feel multiple changes in one in breath and multiple changes in one out breath. And you wish multiple times also can, no problem. All like this to keep the mind occupied. And then we can make sure you take note of the state of mind. This is baseline loving kindness without any concentration yet, zero jhanas with loving kindness. So you take note, this is the baseline emotion. And then we can contemplate on the impermanence of the breath. And in and out breath, that's arising and passing away of the sensations or multiple sensations, and breathe in and out, always mindful of this impermanence. joy arises. This one is not the jhanic kind of joy. It's the process of detachment, as we talked earlier. 7 factors of enlightenment. So this again is a baseline without any jhanas. What is this joy like? So later you can differentiate. Always mindful of this impermanence of the breath or the elements of the breath to anchor the mind. And for those who are, let's say, very sleepy and you're struggling, you try all methods, just a reminder, you're on a recorded session. Sometimes must use a bit of skillful strategies to help keep one awake. Okay, once your mind is quite calm and stable, continue mindful of impermanence. Yeah? So the mind will actually continue to settle until the rate of settling is like very negligible. Like as though the mind cannot settle anymore. And if the mind is more or less like settled and steady and stable, we call this the stability point or the one-pointedness of the mind. So this one-pointedness is derived through impermanence. So the mind can calm down through thinking. You need to have skillful thinking. So you can familiarize yourself with this baseline, still at level 0, but at this one-pointedness. Yeah? And then you have to make sure you fulfill 2 criteria. Yeah? First criteria, always maintain mindfulness of impermanence. And second criteria, the mind is calm and steady, and you remember this emotion. And once you fulfill these 2 criteria, at your own pace, you can actually do as long as you want. But if you wish, you can say, let go of this mind. Just like releasing a balloon. And if you start to release or let go, there's no need to push or do anything. We just observe any change in emotion, any change from the baseline. And if the mind or this emotion, or suddenly you feel there's certain pleasant emotion added to the baseline, then that would be the territory of the first jhana, or the first level of concentration. So this emotion is like the landmarks and the signposts to make sure you're on the right track. So you can take note of this pleasant emotion and continue in this mindfulness of impermanence of the breathing, for the mind to calm down. When it reaches this first level, there is attachment associated with the first level. So you need to observe both this, aware of this emotion, these factors, and also the impermanence for the mind to detach and reach this new stability point, or this new one-pointedness. If the mind strays off, right, mindful of impermanence. And if you think your mind has settled to like a new stability point, and the mind cannot settle even further, then that be the one-pointedness of the first level of concentration. So the same thing, familiarize yourself with this emotion and continue with the impermanence. Sometimes you must discern on what is the nice or pleasant emotion. There are these unwholesome pleasant emotion, like maybe sleepiness can be very pleasant, but that is not the pleasant emotion that we are looking for. The mind should have this right effort. Okay, so theoretically, it has both joy and happiness. And you remember this is like the baseline for the first level. And once you have fulfilled the two criteria, always maintain the impermanence, and you can again release this mind, like letting go of the balloon. And without interfering, just observe any change in emotion to the baseline. And once you detect probably a stronger kind of pleasant emotion, and that would be like the second level of concentration, the territory, technically still joy and happiness, but with lesser clouding of these thoughts towards these emotions. So you can observe this territory, this emotion, and mindful of impermanence for the mind to settle to this new one-pointedness. And for those whose minds are settled with this one-pointedness, then you can familiarize yourself with this state of mind or this emotion and continue observing impermanence. And then you can take note of this baseline, new emotion. And once you have fulfilled the two criteria, mindful of impermanence and remembering this state of mind, then you can let go again this state of mind, like releasing a balloon. And without interfering, just observe any changes to the baseline. And if you experience a different pleasant emotion, then that would be happiness and the disappearance of joy. If you want to know the difference between joy and happiness, you need to transit between second and third level. So you take note of this pleasant emotion or this happiness and continue mindful of impermanence for the mind to settle down and reach this new one-pointedness. And if your mind has calmed down in the stability point, then you can familiarize yourself with this state of mind. And remember this emotion and continue mindful of impermanence of the breath or the elements of the breath. And once you have fulfilled the two criteria, that mindful of impermanence, and you remember this new baseline and this new emotion, then you again can let go of this mind, like releasing a balloon. And once you release, again, don't need to interfere, just observe any changes to the baseline or the emotion. And if you have reached the fourth level, and if you do it correctly, there should be this new kind of emotion, which is call it neutral, no happiness, no joy, but kind of refreshing. You take note of this equanimity, we call it. and continue mindful of impermanence of the breath until the mind settles down to this new stability point. And if your mind is rather settled down to the stability point, then you can familiarize yourself in this emotion and maintain this mindfulness of impermanence. It is just a temporary kind of recharging of the battery of the mind. And you can take note of these two criteria, yeah, mindful of impermanence and mind is calm. Remember this baseline. And this time we are doing the reverse order. So we're now going down to the third level. Just observe any change in the emotion once you make the wish to return to the third level. And if you have arrived at the third level, the emotion of happiness should return. And the equanimity is like covered up. Take note of this emotion and same thing, mindful of impermanence, for the mind to settle down. So technically, this is happiness and a bit of equanimity. And you want to know what is joy, then you make a wish to go down again. Go down to the second level. Just observe any change in the emotion. And if you have arrived at the second level, you should observe this joy manifesting, a different kind of pleasant emotion. And continue with the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. And once your mind is settled down, and it is joy and happiness without initial and sustained thinking. This is how they translate that. Vitaka Vichara. Okay, so now we are going to make a wish to go down to the first level. And if you're at the first level, you might feel that this joy and happiness less intense. Yeah? So the lack of intensity is due to this appearing of this initial and sustained kind of thoughts that shroud or obstruct this emotion. Just be aware of this emotion and impermanence of the breath. For the mind to calm down. And once mind is calmed down, then we can bring back to ground zero, level zero. It means come back to the original physical one-pointedness. And once we're at ground zero, make sure no happy emotion, very bland, no special emotions. Okay, then you can think of impermanence of the breath or the mind to calm down. And once your mind is settled, then you can again feel the entire body, feel your fingers, feel your toes. And we can wish all beings well and happy. And it's the practical dedication of merit, real-time dedication. All sentient beings. And while maintaining this boundless mind. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Maintain this positive state, be it standing, sitting, walking, lying down. Yeah? Okay, it's 9:30 and a bit over time. Any problems or questions? I try my best to look at the average demographics. If let's say you cannot follow, I apologize. I cannot wait for everybody to calm down. Some people maybe they fall asleep or what, then not wait for wait for everybody, for the last person. Okay, so any questions or issues?
Bante?
Yeah.
I'm Marcel here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think Leah actually has a question.
It's okay. Marcel can go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Leah. So I'd like to ask, this is somewhat related to Li Hui's question.
Okay.
So in meditation and in more generally in Buddhism, is there some kind of a metrics or guiding principle or KPI, so to speak, so that we ourselves can judge whether we make a progress or not? For example, let's say 1 month from now, after practicing, we can say, based on these metrics, we can say, oh, we have made a progress, or we can say, oh, we haven't made a progress. Or actually, we can also say, oh no, we actually regress instead. Yeah. So is there such a metric in Buddhism?
Okay, so like throughout the entire phases or the different phases of the meditation, be it the visualization of these parts of the body, or even watching the breath, there will be a point where we think of impermanence and the mind will settle down, right? So this settling of the mind is actually going against the stream of desire. The stream of desire. If you can recall the life story of the Buddha, before he attained enlightenment, when he gave up this ascetic practice, he placed his bowl onto a river. So it's a symbolic gesture. He said he made a wish, if he's able to reach enlightenment, may the bowl flow upstream. So the bowl went against the stream, floated against the current and went up. So this is a metaphor. You want to believe it's real or not, doesn't matter. But it's a metaphorical symbol that the detachment is like the bowl. It's going against the stream of desire. So this stream is actually a very long stream. Very long stream. It's a journey. So your own indicator whether you improve depends on where the bowl lands. So every time you calm down the mind, there will be this settling point where you cannot settle further. So that is like your high score, how far you can settle your mind. So the more you practice, it can actually settle further. It gets calmer. So that will be like your benchmark.
Okay, thank you, Bante.
And also the day-to-day life depend on your reaction. Sometimes if we react with greed and anger, then the ball will go with the stream. Yeah, so you need to play this tug of war game. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bante.
No problem. Any other questions?
Ask the question.
Lee, yes.
What if you have how do you deal with pain? If you have a lot of pain in the sitting posture?
Okay. Have you attended the first lesson?
No.
No, okay. You can watch the YouTube
Okay.
link towards the end. There are a few recommended sitting positions, but no worries. This physical pain is sure to have. Whatever posture you're in, even lying down, you lie down too long, also painful. So this is the nature of the body. You sure have unpleasant feeling or painful feeling. Yeah. So the whole idea is not to train to be a robot. We're trying to walk the middle path, try to not get caught up in the extremes, not to rely on moving to shift away the pain, to overcome suffering, and not to hold on to the position, hold on to the pain to overcome suffering, not like that. So the middle path is this eightfold path. Need to be mindful of impermanence, so regardless of posture, standing, sitting, walking, lying down, whether pain or pleasant feeling, the mind will try to detach from these feelings.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other question?
Bante, I have a question. Okay, I still cannot differentiate like the difference between joy and happiness, but somehow I just feel that there's happiness in the mid of the sitting.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's joy or happiness.
Okay, no problem. May not be easy to differentiate the first time around, but every level is a bit different, right?
Yes. Today's
okay,
sitting
yeah.
is actually different from the last two sessions.
Yeah. Then no problem. As long as every stage you go, you can differentiate. There's some difference. That's good enough. Then you go through more rounds, then you're able to differentiate. This Venerable Sariputta, according to the example I give, this Anupada Sutta, one after the other. Because he's the wisest disciple of the Buddha, he can differentiate the first time. So some people might go through a few times or multiple times to be able to differentiate. So like we mentioned earlier on the last week, common for Buddhist practitioners when they meditate, enter, oh, very nice, very peaceful, and ask what level of concentration, I don't know. I don't know what level, I just know very peaceful. So this is the issue now. So you need someone to let you know this knowledge of differentiation, the labeling. That's one thing, and the most importantly is you yourself have to achieve this calmness.
Okay, thank you, Bante.
Okay, no problem. Okay, any further questions? Yeah.
I have a question. So sometimes my mind feels very tired, and then when I try to do like the loving kindness, right? I was just wondering, must we actually verbalize like may the beings be well and happy? Because like sometimes I just don't want to verbally like say out the may all beings be well and happy, because I'm just like very mentally tired. So is it okay to just have this sense of like goodwill to other people when practicing the metta meditation?
Yeah, because if once the initial thought you wish all beings are happy, then this pleasant emotion will arise. Then what will happen is, if a person just don't think of the thoughts, just hold on to the emotion, then the 5 hindrances will come. This is called clinging. So every time we have applied right effort, we're actually breaking the clinging. Every time we think of a new thought, we're cutting on this clinging. Think of a new thought, cutting on the clinging. So it's, I know it's very nice, very pleasant. You just want to stay there. Then once you're clinging, then we call this the symptoms of dukkha, symptoms of suffering. The 5 hindrances will come. Either you have attachment, or you have this sloth and torpor, or you have all the other things. Yeah.
So it's better to keep like verbalizing me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
In the okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no problem. Anyone else?
Bante, I would like to ask a question. So I think just now during the sit itself, there was this part about this is not me, myself, or mine. So the non-self aspect of which. Then when I was doing it, then after that, move on to the metta part. I feel like it's very hard to do metta because it feels very, I think at that point I felt very detached. It's like I don't see the point of doing metta if it's not me, myself, or mine a bit. So it feels a bit contradictory.
Like we talk about the 7 factors of enlightenment, right? So if the mind has achieved certain tranquility or this equanimity, then equanimity is higher than loving kindness. So you can radiate equanimity around, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other question?
Yeah, hello, Bante.
Yeah.
I always hear like that attaining jhanas is like super difficult, but actually I've never read this in the suttas. So now, yeah, I mean, it happened a bit like Luis, no, that I don't know what I'm attaining or what not, but do you think that like as lay people can attain the jhanas or?
Yeah, the Buddha has, even in the sutta, Buddha has disciples who were foremost in jhanas. You can Google yourself like the top 10 disciples or top 10 lay disciples of the Buddha. So some are foremost in this, foremost in doing offerings, some are foremost in going to concentration. So layperson possible, yeah. Got to do with the conditions, how you apply your mind, how you we call it maintain this Eightfold Path in daily life. Yeah, no problem. Anyone else? Or like can be a Q&A session.
Hi, Bante.
Yes.
Because I guess usually I will do meditation in terms of like being mindful with the breath. And I understand that you should not control the breath, but sometimes I'm a bit unclear whether or not when I'm being mindful of the breath, whether I'm actually controlling the breath or not. It seems like I have an intention to breathe, but at the same time, I'm not exerting effort. I don't really know how to explain, but sometimes a bit of confusion around whether I'm actually controlling the breath or not.
Yeah, okay. So we let the breathing be your natural reflex action. So this is number 1. So whatever in and out breathing, whatever movement or whatever sensation, we have this right thought, have loving kindness first, followed by this impermanence. So what's the controlling that we do not encourage is the attention aspect, where the attention is over exert. So that is actually a lot of craving, exerting and forcing the mind. So the in and out breathing, again, there are different schools. If I'm not wrong, there is like a particular Burmese school that you need to deliberately control your in and out breathing. So in breath, they must breathe in very loud. And breathe out, they must breathe out very loud. Yeah, there are such practices. So again, depends on which school you follow. So for the one I'm using, it's your natural reflex action.
Understand. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Anyone else? If not, then we can end the session.